Hello.
Hey, Marina, 1 sec while I get my audio fixed up.
Wait, no worries.
And I'm back.
Give it a couple minutes. I'm not sure who else is coming, but may as well give them a minute.
Yeah, we'll give them the customary.
Yeah.
The highest voted time, and everybody seems to, they vote for it, but they don't show up for it.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't really know what to make of that.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out on the reference stuff. I'm looking at your upload stuff right now. I've got the same question on a lot of my own code. I don't have any reference support in there yet just because there's only one kind of preview registry implementation, fork of a registry implementation that has it. So it's like, do I want to try to add support for it yet or not? I'm not there yet.
I think what I'm going to be doing is, so Sajay pointed me in the ORS thread to a PR. So I think my current plan is just to wait for this PR to be merged into ORAS and then just go from there. But we'll see.
Yeah, the challenge that I'm seeing in hey Trasank, challenge that I'm seeing with a lot of this is it's not any external registry yet. So if you implement it, it does make sense to have that capability in there, but if you depend on that capability, it means that nobody's going to use it yet.
Yeah, I think at least for my tough stuff, I haven't figured this out exactly how to do this yet, but it would be nice to have some kind of flag one way or the other. Either like a backwards compatibility flag or a forwards compatibility flag, whichever direction.
A flag, and I think we can almost certainly put some detection in there to see if the registry does support it.
Mm-hmm.
The one challenge, if you automatically switch it on when the registry supports it, is then if you copy that thing to a registry that does support to a registry, it doesn't support it, what does that copy look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think one of my, I should probably add this to the agenda. One of my kind of next steps that I want to do is map out the registry copying with the tough metadata more generally. But that's a good thing to consider, especially because like kind of no matter what, there's going to be a period of time where different people have different things implemented.
Yeah, I've got the registry copying on my own side on reg client. So that's just like a reg client, reg cuddle image copy command. You just copy from one registry to another.
Yeah.
And I've got a sync command that'll sync up an entire repository and all the tags in there. I just don't have the stuff in there to support the newer reference types. And so if you just put it in there as regular tagged objects, it will just recursively go through and copy everything for you. And so that's easy enough to implement with, it's not just my tool. I think there are other tools to do similar stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for now I'm going with ORAS just because I figure it's one tool. And then if other folks want to add things, they're welcome to add PRs and I'll happy to do whatever.
But when you're thinking it, what would a copy look like? There are solutions out there. You can just say, okay, let me see what it looks like, make sure my stuff doesn't break when that happens. And more than likely if it breaks, it means my stuff's broken, not yours. But
yeah, I think mechanically the copy should be straightforward. It's just, I think, a matter of making sure the tough metadata updates on copy will be, I think, the harder piece. Which I guess brings us to the first item I can look at too. But go ahead, sorry.
And that's exactly one of the challenges I was thinking of was how do you handle that update on copy? And I was thinking about a little bit of that when I was given suggestions of, hey, make like a little virtual pointer that says the tough metadata is over in a different place, because then you could say, copy this entire repository with the exception of that pointer, copy all the other metadata to this other place, and then you would manually just create that pointer if you needed to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's like different copy cases too, where sometimes I think you want to copy the signature, and sometimes I think you want to redo it. I think especially when looking at this, like the scenario Steve talks about a lot, where you pull things into a private registry for your own internal use. I imagine part of that would be that you want to sign it with your own internal stuff, right? So that you
There will be a lot of that.
Yeah.
I was also thinking along the lines, I was watching a Twitter thread today, where you're doing a copy into like a disconnected environment, think of it air gapped.
Mhm.
And they want to have that one-way path. And I was mentally thinking through the process of how do you take a reference type and get that into a OCI layout, which is a file system copy. And so you don't have the registry APIs on the file system. And so you can't say, give me all the things that reference this image from that level. And so I was starting to think through what that process looked like. I think there's a solution. You just start taking things by manifest IDs and, the digest instead of individual tags. And
Yeah.
it's probably a good way to make it work, but I just haven't gone through that whole mental process yet.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to look into. Yeah.
Yeah. People throw problems at you as real all over the place.
Always nice to see. It's nice to see that stuff's actually, there are the right problems. I think this is, so I'm trying to share the screen and it's there. Okay. So you see that?
Yep.
This was your requested metadata examples. So we can start there.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. I like that.
Yeah. So the by the way, these I don't know that you can actually verify these signatures. This is all for the purposes of example, but the idea is that so you have root metadata. This is basically exactly tough root metadata. This piece, it has expiry. It lists it like defines keys and then sets keys for root, snapshot, targets, timestamp.
I was curious on that threshold for the root. It says 2 on that one. Does that just mean 2 exist, or does that mean that 2 need to sign this file?
What's 2 are required. I think in a less example thing, it'd be nice to have 3 keys here with a threshold of 2 or some such. But yeah, that's just
no, Marina, this is fantastic.
So 2 are required to do what?
Are required to, like when the client's verifying the root metadata, if there's only one signature, they look for both signatures before then saying, this is correct, I'll use the stuff in it.
Okay, but that's the signature on this file that says 2 are required. So if somebody created
so basically what it actually means is that the next version of root would need 2 signatures, right? Because it's kind of a forward requirement. Yeah. And I think initially you just like define that, I guess. The root bootstrapping it's a little bit circular, but it kind of works because you have to initialize it someplace.
Okay, yeah, that was where I was like, well, if you just wanted to inject something, you could say 1, but yeah. All right. Trashank, I think I cut you off there.
Oh, no. Sorry. I mean, but someone asked about this at the Secure Software Factory meeting yesterday. How do we handle multiple signatures? People are still unclear because if you think about it, X509 doesn't do this for you, at least not that I'm aware of. So this is a great example.
Yeah, and so with I guess probably you'd actually have this file being pushed twice, or listed in an index twice or some such to have these 2 different signatures on it. I didn't separate that out here, but that's probably how this would work in practice. But anyway. So then we have top level targets. These first 2 would both be on the TUF repository. I think I named it TUF repo by default, which is completely arbitrary and can be changed, which is just the one that you, basically the client has to know where it is, and then they can pull this stuff from there. The targets metadata, and then it's a little bit similar. So it contains, key definitions, and then it delegates to the Wabbit networks. This is just kind of the current way I'm doing it, of saying, so this is delegating to the Wabbit networks repository, right, on this registry. And this is the key you should use to verify anything on that repository. And then, so in the Wabbit networks repository, you upload both the target, like the actual thing you're signing, right? So in this case, it would be this blob here, which is some kind of artifact that you want to sign, and then you upload this target file, which signs it, and using the key delegated to in this targets. And includes media type, length, hash.
How much control do you have of what is inside of that thing that you're signing right there? You got the custom, the hashes, the length.
Yeah, so if we want to interoperate with Tough, which would be my definite preference, these two are required. You can put anything you want in custom.
And then the hash at the top has to match the hash that's inside of there.
Yeah, so this is the way I'm basically finagling signing by digest to work with the existing Tough metadata
Okay.
format. Yeah, it is duplication.
Duplication is okay. I'm just kind of mentally sorting it out. I'm wondering if it makes sense to have custom be the full descriptor. That would be triplication though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can stick that in there too. I did it this way just because I figured the descriptor is these three things, right? Basically.
Plus annotations. But
okay, I guess
if we don't have any annotations, then you're okay.
Yeah, we can even just add annotations here. Custom can include, a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a way to do it. And then I figured this way you can both have a digest here, and you could also put like a tag here, which then points to the digest, and it would look basically the same.
And then the digest itself that's the digest thing we're pointing to. That's not the digest of this whole piece of data here.
That's the digest we're pointing to. Well, this is the signature. The digest of this exact file is not listed here. It would just be some other thing that you would pull, right? And accessing via the refers.
And for signing, are you doing canonical JSON or?
Yeah, so at the moment, this is using, I'm just using GoTough, so it's using canonical JSON. That's definitely a thing that I would be interested in changing.
So is that what Tough is thinking of, like Dizzy or something?
Yeah, I think Tough in general is going to move in the direction of Dizzy, I think, at some point. And so I think maybe we can preempt that a bit here and add some kind of option in GoTough and just use that. Which is probably the easiest path forward. I'm also open to basically any other signature wrapper. It's just a matter of picking one and making it work.
If you change to Dizzy for the signing, does that open it up to give you more flexibility for what you want to sign, or do you still want to have that hashes and length field?
So the main advantage of having these hashes and length is that we can just use GoTough directly to verify the inside of this. That's not like a firm requirement. It is just really nice to not have to re-implement all the verification logic.
Yeah, but that is a good point though. There's definitely duplication now, which is not ideal.
Yeah. And it would definitely be like easier code as well, just to say, here's a descriptor, we're just going to sign that, right? Like that's all we actually want to do.
Yeah, that's the direction I'm pushing for, but I don't know all the other stuff inside of Go or inside of Tough to know what I'm breaking when I push that recommendation. So I'm not verbalizing it quite yet, but that's kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah, as I was writing, this is just some fake metadata I made, but as writing the code version of this, it is a lot easier to look at it as a descriptor instead of basically taking the descriptor, pulling everything out of the descriptor, and then shoving it back into this. I mean, that being said, it's only like maybe 5 lines of code or whatever to do that, but they are kind of unnecessary.
We might need to forego Tough for NV2 purposes, to be honest.
Yeah, I am not strongly against a fork. I'm, weakly against a fork of GoTough, because it would be really nice to take advantage of any improvements to GoTough directly without having to.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Again, have another implementation to maintain. I don't know, Tree-Chunk, if you're aware for the Python reference implementation of Optane used a forked version of the Python.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't ideal.
And they never merged back. I mean,
that wasn't great. I agree. The problem here is this will blow up. For this example, it's okay. But if you have a large file and you keep duplicating the hashes, it's going to be twice the file size, right? Because hashes.
So the one thing there though is that we're probably only going to have one of these per targets file. You just make a new targets file for a new hash.
Okay, tell you what. Let's see who complains. We'll leave it here for now. We'll see who complains.
Yeah, again, I'm not opposed to changing this. It would just basically be a matter of figuring out if we can make that some kind of addition to GoTough, like some kind of flag or something that we could just, variable.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it makes sense. Right.
I was leaning in the direction, maybe some kind of plugin that says, given this sign metadata, can you extract the hash and length from it and pass it to whatever Go is looking for? And so then
Some
then you don't have to,
That's a nice
like an
idea.
interface between the two. That would also be kind of nice. And that's something that we could just write in the library that I'm working on now. That should just work.
Yeah. And the default is just, hey, the hashes and length field are right here. Just grab them. And the alternative, when you do some kind of injection of some function, plugin or whatever, that says, here's how you get this data out of my data, or these fields out of my data.
In the JSON, basically, it would look like, just instead of having these three, it would be like descriptor : and then this stuff inside of that.
It's the descriptor. The other thing that I'm pushing for with the descriptor is, so you've got annotations, you've got the media type, the digest, and the length. You also potentially could put other fields in there. As long as you can add other stuff if you wanted to. And so if someone did that, would it still work or not? Yeah, and we could just like arbitrarily throw anything into custom, but you're right, it would be nice to have that be a little bit better defined. A little one for one. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could also just put descriptor into custom, but I don't know.
Okay, so this turns into a single target.
Yes.
And then how would you reference, so you've got a repository of a bunch of different manifests, how would you reference which target file you want to pull to verify?
Yeah, so using the ORAS stuff, so you would pull this SHA, right? You're pulling this from the registry, you get some kind of thing. And then you look for things that refer to this blob. Pull the ones that are the media type tough, I don't know, like NV2 : tough or something, I think is what I'm calling it right now. And then, so you pull a bunch of things that look something like this. You find the ones with signatures that, that you trust, make sure they're correct, and then make sure the stuff is all correct.
And so are these targets going to be this where you get into that, the multi-repository thing? Are these going to be in the tough repository or in the repository, the thing you're signing?
Yeah, so in order to make the references work, this is going to be alongside the thing I'm signing, and all the other stuff is going to be in the tough repository.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the current plan. And then obviously this is missing timestamp snapshot, which would just go in here and look like the usual tough ones. But that's kind of, in my head, that's kind of phase 2 of making this work. Phase 1 is targets, and then,
Yeah, putting them directly alongside that, we're quickly getting to the point that we replace what's going on in MV2 rather than augment it. Not complaining either way, but just
there's definitely, I think, a possibility that instead of doing this delegated targets piece, this delegation here in the top level targets could just point to a key that's used by the notation stuff, right? In their certificate or whatever. And then you'd basically do the same thing, except instead of verifying tough metadata at this stage, you just be verifying the signature.
Which would be all the more reason to have some kind of plugin interface.
Yeah. I think the kind of part of the advantage here is that it'll be easier to transition this to using snapshot metadata because it, it'll be version tough metadata, which fits directly into that. But we could fake that onto the notation stuff, I think, pretty easily. So I'm not super concerned about that.
Yeah, we're still trying to sort out like race condition handling, that sort of thing, and that's going to take some effort, I think, from OCI there. Yeah, I'd asked about last week and I didn't do anything since then, but one of the things they're looking for is somebody to actually implement this.
Yeah.
And the challenge on implementing registry side, sorting those, concurrency and other kind of challenges out, is that a lot of registries are backed by just S3. And if you have multiple replicas of the registry service, S3 doesn't give you the interface to have multiple registries sort that out for you.
Yeah.
And so the logic I'm going through with that is, does it make sense to get, which of these pieces does it make sense to go to like a tough server to handle that for you?
Yes.
if we can't count on the registry to do it.
I think the biggest one is going to be snapshot is what we're going to really want that top server for, which is part of why I'm kind of pushing it to a phase 2. Because I think for these ones, the top level targets just shouldn't change that frequently. Root should change even less. And we can even get around the multiple signatures by just pushing it multiple times, one per signature. At least as a short-term solution for that. As long as you can refer to multiple things, right? You can just, yeah, same thing.
Sorry, I have a quick dumb question. When you sign targets for an image, do you plan to keep it immutable? Some people might need that. I wouldn't be surprised if some people need that. Do I make sense at all? Or do you want to keep piling on to the same targets metadata for different?
That's a good question. I think especially if we're pointing to a tag here instead of the digest, folks are going to want to replace these. And I think, well, basically that could be handled by snapshot, right? Snapshot could tell you the most recent metadata file, which would tell you the most recent, mapping from.
Because here's something to think about. Oops, sorry, hold on. Here's something to think about. I know this has happened with Docker Hub. Signatures expire, and the problem is people leave companies and stuff like that, and they can't afford so you might need to re-sign stuff. You see what I'm saying? You can't even have stuff to be immutable, so maybe it's not a real constraint.
Oh, but it is expired anyway. But I'm just looking at the date. Yeah, I think yeah, especially because these do have expiry times, you do need to be able to replace them, even with basically everything being the same except this. Yeah, let's see. Well, because you could just replace it, right? Because it would have, when you change the expiration.
So you change the key.
Yeah, when you change the expiration time, the digest of this whole thing would be different. So if you push it to the registry, it would just.
Okay, I see. Let me put it this way. I know a common pain point is that the way NV1 worked is that you needed to be able to rebuild and re-sign all those old images. You don't want to do that. You just want to copy over the metadata. Do I make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you could just set really long expiry times. I think is
yeah, I think by default, honestly, we're going to have to do that by default. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think for most of the time, I think the default expiry should be something like a year. And then you can obviously revoke it using.
You'd be surprised. I don't think a year is going to be enough.
I mean, I made up a year.
Brandon probably knows better than I do. But I'd be very curious to see like the oldest image still on Docker Hub.
I've had some conversations with Justin Cormack about this topic, and it sounds like there's a lot of folks who have just never ever deleted anything that they've put on Docker Hub. And so there's some really old stuff out there. Hopefully people aren't using it, but it's there.
As much as Justin loves saying that, they also haven't given us the API to do a delete command. So that's a little bit on Docker Hub's fault.
Snap. That's a good point. Yeah, if you can't delete, then it's no surprise that they're out there. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it really sounds
I will heckle them a little for that.
From that and talking to folks in the OCI group, or mostly listening to folks in the OCI group, it seems like deletion is really an afterthought when it comes to registries.
It's immutable. There's no deletions allowed.
There's no deletion, and storage is free, so we'll just keep throwing stuff in it forever.
No, but actually there's a good argument to be made for it because you don't want the left pad incident. So honestly, there is a good argument for immutability.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being slightly facetious, but yeah, there is actually some good reason for that. I think the question is whether the signature should last forever as well. I could see an argument for having the artifact itself be there forever. It's there by digest. You can pull it whenever you want, but you don't necessarily, if say a security team is signing it, they don't necessarily want you using 3-year-old code.
Oh, yeah, no. I see what you're saying. Does this sound like a reasonable compromise? So you allow signatures to expire. You say, hey, it's been more than a year. If you really want to use this, you can still pull by digest. We're not going to stop you, but you're not going to get the same security checks.
Can we make it a user decision, a signer decision? And
yeah, maybe we can add an ignore expires flag or something.
Or expire -1 or something instead of a date, or And the reason I'm going with that direction is some people are going to want to push something to say it's signed forever as long as the timestamp is still getting updated on this. We just assume that it's still good. And there are other people that'll say, hey, we got our security department, they must refresh all this stuff every 3 months. And that's part of our business requirement. So it's not possible to make both groups happy simultaneously without giving them a config option.
Yeah, and that sounds really great too, because especially because I think there are reasons you'd want to pull old software that you know is broken, like as an obvious example, malware analysis, right? If you want to analyze stuff that went wrong later, you want to know that this is the thing at that point in time, even if you know it's no longer valid. That sounds reasonable. Yeah.
So that kind of takes me into the next thought here, where right now our target is the digest.
Mhm.
How do you feel about handling tag signing in here? What would that look like?
I think in this piece, I think it could be as simple as, you know, putting the tag here, right? And then
Right
having
there.
either the descriptor or this kind of fake descriptor, whatever we end up having inside that. The trickier part, I think, is going to be discovery, because the way I kind of got around that in this design is when you pull by a digest, it pulls the digest first, looks for references, finds this, and then goes like kind of bottom up, and then pulls the tough metadata top down and kind of like meets in the middle, if that makes any sense, to do the verification. For tag resolution, you would kind of want that to come from here, right? You would want you want to know this resolution before you then pull the image, right?
Yes and no. Kind of, it depends on what direction you're looking at it from, you know, and there is kind of both sides here. One side is I'm pulling V3 right now. I want to know that the thing I'm getting is the current thing that V3 points to, and that nothing is rolled back or anything along those lines. And Tough handles that really well with some of its time stamping and that sort of stuff. On the flip side, though, if I've pulled V3 a month ago and I need to do a scale up on some service, I might not care that it's a stale version of V3. I might just want to be able to scale up. And so it's another one of those cases where you've got two different groups that have two different requirements.
Yeah, okay. So I guess it doesn't matter to a certain extent whether, as long as there's no vulnerability in the act of pulling the digest, which would be hard to imagine, you could pull the tag, the digest that the registry says is associated with the tag, pull the associated metadata and see if it's signed, you know, because you know this key from a trusted source, right? So if it's signed by this trusted key, no matter how you got this file, you could see that this resolution like is correct and current. And
so if you pulled, in this example, you pulled the digest for the B2EB, you know, that digest. If you pulled that, it came back and said, okay, here's the targets that has that digest sign, and also these three tags that are pointing to V3, V3.1, V3.1.0. And that way, no matter which of those three you had, all those things just point back to the same signed hash, and they all say that's good. And then if you pulled a different hash that was also V3, that would also verify in that case. Is that kind of where we're going?
I think so, yeah. And then when you verify the top level tough stuff, it would see, you know, is this the current resolution based on the snapshot? And all. Yeah, I think that would make sense. So yeah, it would basically be as simple as replacing this on the metadata side. And then from the user side, it would just be like check all of the things until you find one that has a key that you trust. And
either replacing it or to make Trishank really happy, duplicate it 3 times.
That's how you know you get security, not just twice, but 3 times.
You sign it twice. You put targets the digest, and then you also put targets with the
but each tag, and so you can tag things multiple times. And so it might be latest, it might be V3.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do any of that. Does this all make sense?
It does.
So that's.
Do we lose Trishank?
We lost Trishank. Wait, he left a comment. He has to go. Well.
So we've got your other update.
Yes, this is basically just an update. I think that's the correct word for it. This is just what I've been working on. I got basically the short version is I got the registry API to work. That was the biggest thing here. It doesn't totally solve the problem yet, but it runs on my computer. So, you know, it's something. And then it basically all it does is upload the root metadata to the tough repo on the registry. And it will upload the targets as soon as I fix some bugs in this PR.
Okay. And then adding reference points to support. I love to-dos in code. I've got so many of my own.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest to do actually. It's waiting on that to work. Once this PR is merged, I can then basically replace what's here with that. Or do like some kind of if statement where you either do this stuff or that stuff. I don't know.
Yep.
Oh, and some comments I should delete. Yeah, definitely a work in progress, but you know, it's.
That's exactly what it is though. Yeah. So don't feel bad for works in progress and comments and to-dos. And how do we get a password phrase? And yeah, that all makes sense. So is there anything I can help with?
Yeah, let's see. My next to-dos are, we'll finish this, and then there's the password file stuff is kind of uninteresting. I just need to do it, right? Use passwords to encrypt files on disk. Beyond that, I think it's basically implementing the rest of the proposed CLI is the next big thing to do. I don't know how you'd rather help. Would you rather write code, review code, do other things? I mean, what do you have time for?
I need to get to the point that I can help write code.
Okay.
I'm not there yet. One
Cool.
day soon, hopefully, but I've got a huge stack on those your plate on my own.
No problem. That's why I ask. I don't want to
Yeah.
say, oh, here's all this code that needs to be written or whatever, if you don't have the bandwidth for that. I mean, it would just be nice to get more eyes on this stuff. I'm mostly working on my own, so it's nice to get outside perspectives, especially because I mean, I've written Go code, but it's not like I guess it's not my first language. First programming languages.
You're another one of those Python programmers, huh?
Yeah.
I get that on the Intoto side. They're Python first, and all the Go people started showing up, and they're like, "Yeah, you guys do whatever you want to do. We'll figure it out later." It's like you know you're a security project, right?
Yeah. It would be great to do more of this stuff in Rust, actually. But anyway, that's someday in the future, right?
I know some people you'd make happy if you did that.
I figured Go is the language of the cloud at the moment, so I figured it was the place to start. But
we're seeing a little bit of Rust, but yeah, definitely a lot of Go. And so that was where I went that direction when I was figuring out what language to learn next. Because I came to hear from a lot of PHP and Python and way too much Perl.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thought I've got, I threw it in the notes section there, is that if GoTough might want to consider some kind of plugin interface for how it grabs data, that might make some of your stuff a lot easier to implement.
Yeah.
Or at least make it prettier for other people following along later on. They're trying to figure out, okay, what is this field here for people who know registries? We all like things that look like descriptors. Yeah,
definitely. Because I'll maybe just spend some more time poking at the GoTough API and see how hard that would be. I don't know if I want to commit myself to a full refactor, but if it's as easy as pulling a couple of arguments out and making a wrapper function, I mean, that shouldn't be too bad.
It might just mean making a second interface in there, the verification, and a little wrapper function in there of some kind. So that might be something where if I go digging around the GoTough itself, I might see if there's a good way to do that as well. Yeah, because it should just be that one little piece of the code, right? Just the targets, that one piece of targets metadata, basically. I don't know how isolated that is in the code base, but yeah. So that's a good to do. What else? I'm not sure. So is there any other, I guess, my kind of plan for the week is just to keep working on
on this, see what happens. Anything else that you can think of that I should be focusing on?
All the other stuff that I'm looking at is not specific to this. And so it's, yeah, got a presentation I'm working on for next week. And then, yeah, a lot of things in my own little side projects. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to make the two mesh together nicely. And so I'm not there yet. I'll get there eventually, but like I say, that stack of things on my to-do list is pretty deep right now.
Yeah, no problem. I understand. Yeah, and then I think I'm going to poke Justin Cormack again about being allowed to merge my stuff. But
that was what I was going to ask you about. I was like, I knew there was something I was going to ask you.
I'm sure I think I mentioned it to Steve last year, and he basically in the notary meeting, he's basically like, yeah, that's something that we should fix, but I just need to get someone to, push the button and fix it.
And is Steve not the person that can push the button?
I think it's only Justin, so I just need to find 5 minutes of his time.
We need to change this away from a single point of failure then.
Yeah, actually, because that could actually go wrong. He might go on vacation sometime or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
He might, just want to look at pretty antennas pointing to space, and
Yeah, he might learn to play the ukulele and realize this whole tech thing is a mistake. Who knows? But anyway.
Yeah, so that definitely should be something we sort out. Nothing I can do, unfortunately, other than I can poke Justin if he didn't answer any of your questions. I can always.
I think he will. He's just busy, but it's not.
Yep. Yeah. So, like I say, anything else I can do for you, give me a ping. Otherwise, yeah, I like where it's going. It's promising to me, especially if we can tweak up that data a little bit. I can see, even if we didn't, I can see how this could easily plug in and work with other things. So that metadata example there helped a lot. So appreciate that.
Happy to help. All right. So I guess we can just call it there, and then have a good weekend.
Sounds like a plan. Over here on the East Coast, were you up in New York or something like that? Or are you on the West Coast? Okay. Yeah, because we're just getting all the rain today. So it's a good day to be inside. And
it's a good day to sit inside and write some code.
That's my plan.
Have a good one.
All right, Marina, take care.
You too. Bye.